Hey guys, I'm your host Smitha and welcome to Journey Podcast, your weekly podcast on transformational journeys. Hello everybody, I have an young lady with me by name Janae Strickland-Nunn. She's a high school teacher, teaching science and a podcast host from Houston, Texas. She is married and has two amazing bonus kids. Janae loves to travel, write, and spend time with her family. Welcome to the show, Janae. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Um, I'm excited to tell my story.
Definitely. Please go ahead and tell your story. If I
so,
have any questions, I'll ask you. If not, keep going on that.
okay, definitely. So I'm in a different place. Like she said, I'm a high school teacher, science teacher, and I'm a podcaster. I focus a lot. My life is centered around self-care and self-help and just self-love because of my experience in the past, which kind of led me down that path to make sure that I'm taking care of myself, and I focus a lot on self-care because I figured if I didn't know how to love myself, I couldn't ask anybody to love me. So, or take care of me. And also not just that, but if I want to help anybody else, I couldn't pour from an empty cup. So I learned how to like really put that care that I was giving out to everybody and put it back into myself and not feel like bad about it or feel like I was being selfish because it was necessary. And that was a tip that I learned from my therapist, who kind of brought me to where I am today as well. So my story begins in college. I was a college freshman, getting ready to go into my second semester. It was like the end of the first semester, getting ready to go into the second semester. And I was away from home, enjoying college life and being, making adult decisions and, just exploring what it's like to be on your own, and discover, just learn about yourself. And so I, uh, I had been talking to a guy off and on for a little bit. It wasn't anything like, special or anything, but I don't want to say exploring my sexuality, just exploring my sexual freedom, making choices that I wanted for me. So I consented, it was a consensual thing with me and him. And it was a plan to meet, have a date and do boy girl things. Basically, do boy girl things. And so I get there and everything's good and things progress. And little did I know that his friend was going to be there and that I did not consent to that. And um I guess it's not, I guess I was raped. um it was uh it was strange. It was I kind of I took people ask me like, what did it feel like? I actually separated, like I made myself separate myself from where I was. I don't know how to, if I could, it's like I left my body. So my body was there, but I wasn't there. Like it was,
I get it.
and so after everything happened, I left. I didn't go to the police because I felt like it was my fault, because I didn't leave or I didn't, I don't know. I just felt like it was my fault. And I didn't tell anybody for a very long time. Um, and it was hard because I had to see them every day, like, because it's a college campus and I was an athlete and they were athletes. And so I saw them every day and it was so hard. To go through that for the rest of that semester. And I remember going home for Christmas break and telling my mom that I didn't want to go back. But I couldn't tell her like why I didn't want to go back. And she talked me through it. I kind of lied. I told her it was because I was having some beef. It wasn't really a lie, it was an omission of the truth because I was having some issues with one of my coaches. And she was like, well, just change events. She was being very supportive. And it was sad because I really wanted to tell her, but I didn't want her to see me in that way. And I know she would have, because I told her later, I'll get to that. But I know she would have she would have been there for me and she would have supported me if I would have gave her the chance to do it. But I didn't give her that chance.
Is
Yeah.
that because of self guilt that you are carrying, or
Mhm.
is that you are trying to protect your parents
Yeah.
from the
Yeah, from the truth. So I went back. I remember going back and I actually got a boyfriend like that second semester. I had a boyfriend and I kept him all through the whole time I was in college because I feel like that was the safest choice for me. That if I was attached to somebody, then maybe my choices wouldn't put me in another predicament like that, which,
Okay.
it didn't at the time it made sense. Now I'm like, girl, that was silly. But it was a rationalization that maybe if I'm attached to somebody, if I make a stupid decision, it will be with somebody I trust and not, well, I did trust that person, but whatever. And we had some issues in our relationship because as a result, I didn't like to be touched. I didn't like physical touch, or, getting hugs, like any of that. I was kind of like, don't touch me. I would jump a lot when people would touch me or anything. And I honestly didn't deal with it until after grad school. After grad school was when I knew I had to talk to somebody because I couldn't live my life without um, physical touch, like even from my parents, just somebody hugging you. You need somebody to hug you, like to give you comfort.
Yeah.
And at times, like I would kind of shrink back when people would reach for me. And so I knew I couldn't continue to live my life like that. So I went to therapy. And when I went to therapy, some other stuff came up, like my anxiety disorder came up, and which was, another result of the rape and just all of that just kind of poured out like as I spent time with my therapist and I got to talk to her and it was just a bunch of things that was kind of one of the underlying causes of
Issue.
all of it. Yeah, it was the issue was because I had this traumatic thing happen to me in my life, but I never dealt with it the way I should have. And so once I went through therapy, we talked about how it wasn't my fault and just ways to, deal with it and also reclaim my sexuality because I feel like, I couldn't be, a sexual person because of that, because, society says, well, if you're a sexual female, something like that'll happen,
Yeah.
all that stuff. But so I found ways after I talked to her, I started reclaiming my sexuality. I let people touch me, like not just, not sexual wise, but just like the comforting, like the hugs and the cuddles that I loved so much when I was younger. And, this one thing made me stop loving it. But I got back to where I love to cuddle. I love hugs, I love giving out hugs. I got back to that point. But I think the amazing thing that helped me was therapy. I do feel bad that I did not report it to the police. Like I really should have, because I could have saved somebody else from that situation if I would have went and told somebody to report it. Like that's the thing I really feel bad about. But the rape itself, I no longer blame myself for it because it wasn't my fault, and I didn't ask for it.
That is
So it
really
was.
important to stop that self-blaming thing that it is
Mhm.
my fault, kind of. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, that it wasn't my fault because people will always make you seem like, well, why were you over there and what were you doing? And that's what you wanted to do. And it's like, no, I didn't ask for that. So that, I didn't ask for that. And I have I should be able to do things without feeling like somebody's going to take advantage of me.
Yep.
That's my basic human right is to
Yep.
exist and live and not feel like not always have to think somebody's going to do something that will hurt me. So yeah, so now I am I tell my story. I talk about it a lot more. It did still take me a while after therapy to discuss it with my parents because I was still trying to, just shield them away from it.
Yeah.
But I remember when I told them, they were sad. They were sad that not the fact that they were sad that it happened to me and they couldn't protect me from that, not anything else. I remember my dad was like, baby, that wasn't your fault and you shouldn't have been afraid to tell somebody, and I think that was the biggest thing for me when they were like, we're happy you made it through. We're happy you're
So true.
okay.
So
They
true.
were sad that it happened to me, but they were just like, they love me, you know. It was kind of like
How
we,
did you take the therapy?
yeah,
How
yeah.
long did you take the therapy?
I took therapy for about a year and a half.
Okay.
Year and a half, 2 years, and I still go see a therapist. But for that, that was like a big part of that whole year and a half. But now, I pop in whenever I need some help. I'll make a call and be like, "Hey, it's time for a session," But yeah, just to deal with that, it was about a year and a half to
Hmm.
get me to a place where I could just accept that that happened to me, but it's not me.
Yeah.
It's not me. It's not who I am. I am still Janae. I'm still, the loving person. I'm still all of this. It happened and it sucked, but
Hmm.
this is who you are.
Yep. Yep.
Mhm.
So when you're mentioning that you are a podcasting host and you're doing a podcast, what
Mhm.
kind of a podcasting is this, and why is that important to you to do?
Why is it important for me to
Yeah.
podcast? I just so I do, like I said, I do a lot of self-care and talk about mental health. I feel like it's necessary. We all go through trauma. We all go through things. And sometimes I think people feel like they're alone in what they go through, but you're not. And that's one of the main reasons why I started podcasting, was just to share stories, my stories and other people's stories, to let people know you are not alone in the things that you're going through in life. It
Mm.
is okay to get help. It is okay to say that I'm not okay. It's okay to not be okay, because everybody wants this, society wants us to have this picture perfect life, and everybody is a mess, and we need to be honest about that with ourselves. Things go right, we're still a mess. Things go wrong, we're a mess, and that's okay. We're beautiful messes, but we need to talk about it, so that you have something to relate to,
Yep.
and you know that you're not by yourself.
Yep. Yep.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Yeah.
tell us like more about your journey. And also, I wanted to ask you one more thing. Like,
Hmm.
what was the biggest or like the touching point when you're doing the podcast by yourself? Like, I mean, when you're hosting someone else, you
Uh-huh.
might have heard like many stories,
I
and
have.
there are some stories that touch a lot more than the others. So, what kind of a stories that really touch you?
um Oh my goodness, so many. Okay, so a story that actually touched me, and the episode hasn't came out yet, but it's gonna come out. And it's two. So I usually don't have men on my podcast because it's more centered to females, or women. I'm sorry, centered for women. But I wanted to bring men on the podcast this year to talk about their journeys. And the two male guests that I had on the podcast this season, they were amazing because they talked about their mental health journey. And men don't really talk about mental health
They
like
don't.
they should. Yeah, they don't talk about mental health. So and their stories touched me because they were open about talking about the things that they were going through and the struggles that they were going through as a man, and how they put up these big personas to make it seem like they're the strong man, and they can do the things they need to do. But on the inside, men are hurting too. you know,
Yep. Yep.
they're hurting too, and they're dealing with things too. And and it was just good to hear them say that out loud and not keep it in. Because like I said, I feel like everybody should know you're not alone. And especially for men, sometimes women, we see men as being the stronger. Sometimes I don't. Me and my husband, we share. We're pretty much equal, but it's this whole gender roles that we put men in. And they're dealing with stuff just like we're dealing with things. We're more apt to express ourselves than men are, because
Mm.
they want to hold up this whole
Yeah.
facade of,
Yeah.
I'm the strong masculine man. You can depend on me. Yeah, but those were good stories.
That's nice. That's nice.
Mhm.
What was your satisfactory point when you do this kind of work?
Um, like when people send me emails and say thank you for talking about this, or thank you for talking about mental health, or keep doing what you're doing. I got a lot from this episode, or I did an episode before. It was about imposter syndrome, and how I struggle with the things that I've accomplished and who I feel like I really am.
Yep.
And I had a lot of people talk about, like, I do the same thing. Because I was a little nervous putting that out. But whenever anybody just sends me an inbox, a DM, they email me, or somebody that I'd never thought would listen, they'll be like, hey, that was good stuff. Thank you for sharing that. That's
Where do you see your journey maybe in next 1 year or like next a few years? What is that you wanted to actually achieve with this?
um I don't know.
It's
Everybody has these
no, it
great,
doesn't
yeah,
have to be like, yeah.
yeah, everybody has these great, like, business. I don't do it for the money. I just do it to help people. And I know that sounds crazy, but I don't have like I don't have a coaching business. I don't want to be a life coach. That's not me. I'm a teacher. So, and I just share information that that I've experienced and been through. So if I can just keep helping people and, helping them along on their journeys as I continue to go on my journey, that's the best thing that I could get out of all of this.
When you mentioned that you are in teaching, there is an interesting question for me that came out. Like,
Okay.
do you ever talk about mental health situations to students that you are
I,
teaching?
I do, because our kids in this country are full of anxiety and stress that we don't even, sometimes I don't think parents realize it, but I have helped kids, walk kids through panic attacks. I have some days in the mornings at the beginning of class, like we'll just start off taking 3 deep breaths and thinking about what you want to accomplish for the day, or taking 3 deep breaths and just thinking about some positive things that happened before you came to my class. So I do share strategies with them because they go through a lot. They go through a lot, and I teach mostly juniors in high school. So
Mm.
they're trying to get ready for their senior year. They're worried about grade point averages and passing classes. It's a lot for those babies. So I try to make sure that I incorporate the things that I've learned into my school and into my teaching and my lessons, so that they could just have a better experience in high school.
So let's just say, for example, like a kid is having some trouble with whatever the reason or the scenario they're having, and
Hmm.
they are not able to come out of the shell the way, same way that you were in your
Hmm.
age.
Hmm.
How do you actually like help them, or like what are the steps that you expect to take, or like
Hmm.
what is that you actually do for them?
So for my students, I recognize, first of all, I want them to see me as an advocate for them.
Mm-hmm.
Just not, I'm still their teacher, I'm not their friend, but I want them to know that I'm a safe place. So that's established at the beginning. In all of my communications and everything I do with my students, I am a safe place for you. I'm not just your physics teacher, but I'm somebody that if you need to talk, come talk to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I constantly, all the time, I always scan the room and I check the temperature for my students all the time. Like I look for mood changes, because you can tell,
Yes.
you just tell behavior changes, anything. I always pay attention to that. And then, I just ask them how they're doing every day. How are you? Are you okay? Do you need anything? And, once they understand that they can trust me and that I'm not, some crazy authoritative figure, I don't know. I just, whenever they come up to me and they talk to me and they ask me for help with things, I do what I can do, what's in my wheelhouse to help them with. And then if it's above my pay grade, that's what I usually like to say. We set up I set up meetings with counselors.
Mm-hmm.
I get them to the proper channels who they can talk to. I also talk to other teachers for my students. Like I don't, if they're having a really hard time in a class, I email a teacher because I just sometimes I think as teachers we have so much to do.
Yeah.
And what I do just comes natural to me. I don't know. I guess it's just my nature, and I'm really protective of students. That's why. So that's in my nature. And I'm not knocking any other teacher, but it's just different things that we have in our wheelhouse. And so if a student is having a hard time, I email their teachers and say, hey, such and such is going through this today. She's going to probably be a little spaced out, or he's just not having a good day. So, is there anything that we can do? I'm just warning you before he gets to your class, or warning you for tomorrow to let you know if there's no change, we need to come up with a plan. It's just because they need that. They just need somebody on their side, or they feel like it's on their side to do something.
Hmm. Were there any scenarios that you actually had to reach out to their parents and explain like this is happening to them?
Yes,
How did the parents
I've been
react for that?
teaching for 13 years, and I've done that a lot. A whole lot. I've had to I've had to tell parents about pregnancies. I've had to tell parents about just emotional things that I'm seeing with the kids. I've had to tell parents about their child breaking the law, and I know about it.
Oh,
Um, yeah, it's been a lot for the 13 years that I've been teaching, and they're very hard conversations. This is very hard because sometimes parents don't know,
yep,
and
yep.
it's not scary, and I don't blame the parents, but I know how much teachers see kids during the day, and I know how much kids don't sometimes talk to their parents. So I throw myself out there and be like, I'll be the tribute. I'll be, yeah.
For it being your specific interest versus like what are the resources that you actually have in the schools to help kids like this?
Um, so we have a bunch. We have hotlines that we can call, but they're not to get the kids in trouble. It's mainly to get them help. Our
Mhm.
counselors are amazing. They don't just focus on scheduling issues. They are just now, counselors at high schools are really keen on handling anxiety and, just different mental health issues that we know our students have. We do have a trauma counselor on campus who just deals with trauma, or emotional stuff. That's her job. That's the only thing she does. And then, we have the parents, and then we could talk to the assistant principals as well. So we have a bunch of things, and we have processes in place to help our students.
That's nice. That's nice.
Mhm.
Because but when I was talking about different aspects of it, I was trying to collect the gaps in the education systems as well. So
Oh, gotcha.
kind of like, yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm fortunate because I work at a school that's I'm gonna say it. It's of the upper socioeconomic status.
Okay.
So we have, millionaires kids who are at our schools. So we're able to affect things a little bit differently because of the tax bracket that's at
Exactly.
it. Yeah, now when I was in the lower, because I've taught on both spectrums, they try to do the same thing, to be honest. It's just, time, money, but they try to do the same thing. So if we see a kid, and I mean, I've never had a problem with if a kid is in distress at either ends, that a counselor won't do anything about it. So there's always help when it comes to mental health. We just have to utilize it, and teachers have to utilize it because
Mm.
we get trained on it. We get trained to see it, and the counselors get trained to handle it. So, yeah.
Were there any parents that gave a hard time to accept that their kids are going through this? Because in my culture, for example,
Mhm.
I wanted to give example for myself.
Yeah.
If we go back to our parents and say like, yeah, I'm feeling depressed or like I'm having
Mhm.
some mental issues, I don't think for me, in my culture, mental issue is not a thing at all.
Gotcha.
All that we will hear back from our parents is like, go have a cup of water and then pray.
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
that is how we were dealt.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, is there any parent that gave you a hard time when you were talking about
Yes, that too. It was, I don't know what they have to have any problems with. They got everything they need. And it's like,
that?
no, they don't. That's not what they
Is
need.
that how it works
Yeah.
with mental health?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, have you asked them how they are doing? Like, have you really asked who are they hanging out with? Who are they texting every day? Have you asked them about social media? Like the parents do. They sometimes it's hard for them to grasp that, oh, something is wrong with my kid. And I've had that say, I've
Yep.
had parents say, well, they just need to pray about it. It's like, no. Wait, no.
I have heard that many times. That's why I just wanted to bring that up here.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think I'm gonna be honest. I heard that when I was younger too. Like when you're dealing with emotional stuff, and they just think you're fine. Go take a nap. Go pray
Oh,
and take
yes.
a nap. Yeah, that's what I was told. Go pray about it and take a nap. And I was like, no, wait, that's not it. I need to talk about this. Yeah.
That's so true. That's so true.
Mm-hmm.
In your whole span, whether doing a podcast or being a teacher, were
Mm-hmm.
there any situations that is actually like way too connected with you and it is like resonates with you, I can say, where it is like the happiest moment or even the lowest moment that you felt like, man, this is too much for me to take, for you
Um.
to process it personally?
Yeah. I can say this year has been a lot. Um, just with the pandemic and teaching, and this has been a low year for me. It has been a, do you really want to continue doing this and risk your life? It's just you have to weigh. As a teacher, I had to weigh out my options. Like, sure, is this for you? Like, are you okay with this? It's just this year's been hard, but I still find my happy moments, and it's all the time. Teaching wise, it's always with my students.
Hmm.
I love them. I love their personalities. I love their little minds working and problem solving. Even though I tell them, I say, I teach you physics, but I'm really trying to teach you how to handle life. Like physics comes secondary to me. If we need to, I have times in my class where some days I'll just rearrange the lesson just so they can talk, because that's
Hmm.
all they really want to do is talk anyways. They want people to hear them. So that's kind of like my highlight of teaching is the times where I just let them talk and I laugh at them because it's a lot of funny stories, but
Yep.
it's good to hear where they're at. Podcasting wise, it's just good to be heard sometimes. you know that's the high points. If I'm heard, that's amazing. Like,
Yep.
it's like, oh great, you listen, thank you. Yeah, I don't think I've really had any low points when it came to podcasting at all. It's always like oh, you listen to me, thank you.
Good. That's good.
Hmm.
Were there any stories that actually impacted you and change your perspective of thinking about something or like change your mindset on something else? So,
Hmm.
are there any scenarios that way?
I did. And it's crazy. I had my mom and my aunt on my show for a Mother's Day special, and I just got to hear them talk about, their lives. My mom had me when she was 17, and
Uh,
my aunt was 13. And so, I asked them questions about what they thought, as they were growing up, what did they really think they wanted to do before I came in the picture? Like,
hmm,
what were your goals and aspirations? And it was just crazy because my mom told me her goal as a 15-year-old was to be a secretary. I said, girl, my mother
second,
is intelligent. Both of them are educators. Like, they both work, they're both teachers. And I was like, girl, a secretary? She said, I know, I didn't know. So it was just good to hear their stories and hear them talk about their lives and what they were thinking as they were growing up, just as they were becoming women. Like, how did they think things were going to go? So,
Oh, was that your motivation point to keep doing all this? Or like, is
yeah,
there anything?
yeah,
Okay.
it was. It
Okay.
was listening to them and hearing them talk. It was like, okay, I just need to keep, and they've always been my motivation. All the women in my, well, the men and women, I have a very supportive family. And so it's never been a, oh, you shouldn't do that. It's always a, well, we know you're going to do it anyways because you do what you want to do. So we support you. That's all. Sorry.
Good. That's good.
Yeah.
How is your family support right now? Your
It's
husband, kids?
it's good. He is very supportive and very amazing. I got married late in life. I got married last year, 2019. So yeah, I waited for him. I didn't, let me not say that. I didn't think I was ever gonna get married. Like that was the,
Why?
yeah, I wasn't planning on it. I was just gonna be single and whatever for the rest of my life. And then he came along and changed that all up. And he is an amazing man, amazing husband, and an amazing dad. He is very supportive. He likes to hear me talk through my processes of what I'm thinking about. I told him about, the trauma that I experienced, and he asked questions so he could understand. And then he was just supportive. It was never it was nothing judgmental about it. He was just like, I'm sorry it happened to you, and I told him about my anxiety because I have an anxiety disorder. I told him about that. He was like, don't worry, I do too. So, we're good when it comes to mental health. We make sure we're both good. So it's
I
pretty,
think
it's
you just mentioned about like getting asked questions,
mhm,
not about your husband in specific. Like, were there definitely you might have gone through like some judgmental points and
mhm,
people asking you questions. What
mhm.
is your like a discomfort question or like a point where you feel like, man, these people will never change. This is how it is going to be.
It was the question that I always had. It was, why did you go over there? I said because I wanted to. The plan was,
Point.
I think at one point I was, because I was so comfortable and just I felt like it didn't even matter anymore. I did tell somebody this. They said, why did you go over there? I said the plan was to have a good time and have sex. Like I just said it because I don't know what else you want me to
One
say.
person though.
Yeah, yeah, just to one person. But after I said that, like that person was like, oh, it kind of took them back because it's the truth. Like
Of course.
I consented with this person. Like the plan was to have a good date and do this with one person, not to the person I consented to. And that's always the question that really is like, well, why else did you think I was over there? I mean,
It's so true. That is true.
yeah,
It's as simple as that. I mean, why is that so hard to understand? Even if
yeah,
you were there in that situation, that is what it is.
exactly. Like why would you have been over there? You know what you were I don't know. It's just that, but after it was kind of like I was fed up with hearing the question. I think it stopped happening. And another good thing that happened was the Me Too movement.
Okay.
Because once that happened, I stopped getting stupid questions. It was no more like, well, what were you wearing? Well, what were you? It was no more all of that stuff. It was just like,
That
we
changed
hear your
actually.
story. Yeah, it was like, we hear your story and here it is. But it was no more of those judgmental questions. It was just like,
That is really surprising for me to hear that Me Too movement helped you because
yeah.
a lot of people tagged that saying like, yes, me too. But I
Hmm.
don't think a lot of people really got much out of it is what I can say, at least from
Yeah.
my perspective.
Hmm.
I'm really surprised like that you found that outlet from that.
I guess, I don't know. It gave me the courage to talk about it more. Like I was more open about my story when it happened. And it was more so because people know who I am and
Mm.
they know that my personality, and they know, they know me. And I'm not very, shy about telling people I'm a strong woman. I'm not a superwoman. I'm not superwoman at all, but I'm strong willed, I'm strong minded, and I'm determined. and I'm very protective over myself and other people. So when folks heard that it happened to me, it gave them a different perspective on it. It was like, well, dang, if that happened to Janae, then
Yeah.
yikes, yeah, it happened. It happens to the strongest of us and the weakest of us. It's not. There's no. There's no one target. This. Yeah, it's no one target. It happens. It happens to women all over the place,
Yep.
and no one cares how strong you are. No one cares about any of this other stuff. It happens, and
Yep.
we just need to. If we can accept the fact that it happens and it's not the woman's fault,
Yep.
there's nothing. I know in my situations there's nothing I could have done differently. As much as I wanted to run, I couldn't. It wasn't. There was no way. I wished I would have, but I couldn't. I just, and it's other women who are like that. As much as you think how you would plan how it would happen and how you would escape the situation, when you're in the situation, it doesn't happen that way.
Yep.
It's your body does different things and responds different ways. And it happens. It's not okay. And it's not okay to blame a woman.
Yep. Yep. Were there any very lowest points for you where you felt like this is it? I just can't take this anymore.
Yeah, it happened in 2015. I dealt with some deaths in my family, and my mom. I almost lost my mom too. It happened like within 2 years, like,
Mm.
and then I ended up going in the hospital, and after that, and dealing with it was just a lot of stuff happening, like a stressful job, and you might as well tell everybody you love them now. But that was again, therapy helped. That was another, I wasn't afraid to reach out to a therapist and say, I'm having these issues, I'm having these thoughts, and this is not okay. It's not okay. I need to talk to somebody. And so, therapy to the rescue. Just because it helps. It does. It does.
Since I have not been to therapy at all, I just wanted
Mhm.
to ask a question related to therapy. Like,
Yeah, for
what
sure.
kind of a session would that be? Like, I mean, how do you, I mean, you are explaining about your problem, whatever
Hmm.
the situation that could be, whether you are depressed mentally or like
Hmm.
physically something happened to you, anything. Your
Yeah.
scenario has been put out. What was the process like about the therapy? You took like 1.5 year long.
So the process, the first thing was the first couple of sessions was just me talking, and it was easy to talk because it was somebody who did not know me, and
That's
could,
always that you'll be really comfortable talking to
yeah,
somebody that we don't know.
like
Talking about these kind of situations, it always be that way.
exactly, exactly. And so it was just easy because I was like, she doesn't know me and her job is to help me. So I might as well talk about everything. And that's what I did. I just talked.
Exactly.
I talked. And then about the second or third session, she was like, okay, so now we're gonna talk about this. When you talked about this, let's talk about that. So, and so as we went through therapy, we were just handling traumas, and
Mm.
she was giving me tools and I had assignments, and it wasn't just talking, it was a lot of doing and me doing work. And I remember hearing somebody talking about therapy, like, you're not always going to come out of every session feeling great. You're
Yep.
not. And sometimes I would come out of sessions like boohoo crying or angry, just mad because I had to deal with feelings that I was suppressing
Yep.
because I wasn't, I didn't want to face them. And so it was a process. It was
Definitely.
a
Definitely.
process.
It's not a one-time thing, one day thing.
No, it's not a one time, one day. It is a process, but it's a good process, and I appreciate it. I'm happy I did it.
Definitely. Definitely. Did you
Mhm.
ever had like suicidal thoughts by any chance?
I did. I did. I did. It wasn't. It was the low point. It wasn't great. I never acted on it. It was never an act. The ideation was there. I just knew I had people who loved me. And if I were to do anything like that, I didn't want to hurt them. Because I
Mm.
knew that would, it was a whole thing that I knew it would have hurt them if I would have hurt myself. So it's just that was a very low moment. And that's the only thing. Actually, my little sister, she I tell her this all the time, and she does never know. I tell her she saved my life because I was it was a really low point, and she just texted me and was like, "I love you." She had no clue what I was going through. She had no, nothing, knew nothing was going on. And that one little thing, and I went and I was like, "Where are you?" And she was like, "I'm over at mom's house." I was like, "Okay." I just went over and I sat with her and I let her hug on me, I let her love on me and hug on me. And that helped because sometimes you just need that.
Yeah.
You, not, we know people love us, but sometimes you just need to hear it and
Yeah.
it pulls you out of that dark place.
That's
Yeah.
amazing knowing a lot of questions. I know that I'm asking a lot of questions to you because
Yeah.
you being a podcaster, I think you're the first podcaster that I'm actually interviewing.
Okay.
So I'm really eager to understand like what is your process of taking all this?
Oh yeah, I don't know. The way I talk, the way I'm talking to you is the way I talk on my podcast. I'm very open. I'm honest. Um I'm open and honest. That's the only thing I can be.
Will these stories from other people actually impact you in any mental ways?
Um, no, I protect myself a lot whenever I listen to understand, but I'm a Christian, so I pray over myself and I protect my mental because I know, people's energies can rub off on you.
Yeah.
It's a transfer of things. And so I always keep myself covered. So when I hear stories, especially since I'm a teacher, because it's a lot of, like I said,
Yeah.
it's a lot
Yeah.
in the school. It's a lot.
Yeah.
So I keep myself, I pray over myself. I make sure I know my boundaries. I know the things that I can handle. I know the things that I can't. Like you said, you were asking me like if a student is going through, I'm quick to say, "Hey, let's take you to the counselor." If I can't handle it, or if I know it's gonna, come back to me, I'm quick to be like, "Hey, let's get you some help with somebody that can really help you," instead of absorbing it and taking it in and putting it into me. I'm like, okay.
That's good to know because like these kind of stories are not easy to digest,
Mhm.
not easy to even like keep just hearing them, too
Mhm.
many of them.
Yeah.
I have heard people saying me like, yeah, don't take these interviews too many in one week, just schedule one or two.
Y- Yeah,
Like,
I
yeah,
agree. I agree.
I just wanted to ask you, since you are also doing all this, how
Hmm.
many other people are like, I mean, your students and also
Yeah,
like podcasting, you might be hearing stories and number of stories all around the place.
right. Yeah. Yeah, I
How
do.
is
And so,
your intake is what I was like interested
hmm, yeah, I always make sure. And if I can't handle it or if I need a break, I do. I break. I stop. I tell myself, okay, that's enough. You can't. And
in.
I will take a break. Like if I feel like my mental needs more attention than anything else, like my self-care, I will take a break for a good 2, 3, 4, however long I need to make sure that I'm okay to be able to help somebody else. Cause like I said, you can't pour out of an empty cup.
Yes.
And a lot of people have a lot of heavy things on them and it's hard. It's hard.
I think so. Yes. Yes.
Hmm.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you so much for all the messages. Is there anything that you wanted to say as a closing note?
Just I love to say this at the end. Make sure you take care of yourself, work on yourself, because you don't want to take your traumas to anybody else. so heal yourself any way that you can. Do what you need to do to heal yourself.
Okay, thank you for tuning in, and you can find me on all the socials at Smitha and the show notes for any resources mentioned. See you next week. Take care.